What are carbs? Are carbs the same as calories? Are carbs the same as sugar? That's what I'm going to talk about today. When I was losing my 80 pounds, I started to understand something that over the decades of yo-yo dieting, I hadn't really understood. I watched a video about 8 years ago called The Bitter Truth, and it was about sugar. I understood it a little bit, but not to the depth that I understood it this time around, because I combined that video along with videos by Dr. Jason Fung, Dr. Robert Siways, Dr. Ken Berry, and other videos online so that I could understand what carbs were. This was very important for me because counting calories was the typical thing to count in the other diets I'd been on. I'd been on Weight Watchers, I'd been on Atkins, I'd been on Weigh Down Workshop, I'd been on Fit for Life, and various other iterations of diets. And none of them talked about counting carbs, or at least when I was on those diets, they didn't talk about them. And so understanding what carbs were and understanding that if I ate some bread, for instance, that was the biggest challenge for me, is to understand that bread turns into sugar in my body. And it's not just sugar that turns into sugar or stays as sugar. It's carbs, and it can be everything from fruit to bread, even some vegetables, potatoes, rice, all those grains, all those things turn into sugar and turn into starch in our body. This was very eye-opening. I had sort of understood it, but not really gotten into the depth of it to understand how it affects our bodies. And by eating all of those foods on a continual basis throughout the day, grazing on them, snacking on them, it was harming my body. And so counting carbs was something I learned how to do. When you look at a nutrition label, I used to count the calories or the sugar. And now I was starting to count the carbs, the carbohydrates, and that was a new number for me. And I got a little notebook. One thing that helped was when I was losing the weight, I got a little notebook, and I would start keeping track of the foods that I was eating the most of. And you can Google, what's the carb content in a banana or in a potato or in a cup of blueberries. For items that don't have a nutrition label, such as the fresh fruit and vegetables, you can Google that. How many carbs are in a cup of blueberries? For items that have a nutrition label, that have been made in a factory, they have the carb content on them. And so I started understanding what keto was, and to keep the carbs below, well, some people say below 15 a day, which is really hard to do, but even below 50 is better for losing weight. So just counting up the carbs that I was eating was just shocking. And that, one drink of juice is like 30 carbs or something crazy like that. Oh my goodness, no wonder I'm keeping the weight on. No wonder I've been gaining weight and can't keep it off, because I was not counting the right thing. And so counting carbs was a really important thing for me to learn how to do. And it became a little bit of a habit for a while, and then I started realizing most of the foods that I wanted to eat, I don't have to count the carbs anymore, because they're fresh vegetables, mostly fresh vegetables, cooked vegetables, and meats. And those were the primary things that I ate while I was losing the weight. And losing 80 pounds is a lot of weight when I'm a small frame. I'm 52 years old. I'm 5 feet 5 inches. I definitely have small bones. My wrist is really, really small. So carrying 210 pounds was just crazy for my body, and a lot of work. It was unhealthy. I had so many health problems that started happening. So I knew I had to lose the weight. I knew I didn't want to keep gaining it and yo-yo dieting again. So that's why I had to get to the root of it, and counting carbs was really, really, really important for me in my process of losing the weight. And I'll talk more about it in future videos and explain it a little bit more, and some more tips that I have about counting carbs. If you want to share this video with others, feel free to do that and to make comments, and hopefully I will be able to answer some of your questions in the future videos. Thanks so much for watching.